All right, so last time I said I would make economies real simple so it's easy to understand why it's going to crash. So the basic of what makes any economy work. So let's make a little something here. So let's say, oof. Let's make a pop-up box. There we go. All right. So let's say this represents everything you make, or let's just say it's a thing that you've made. Um, we can say it's pointed sticks. All right. So if we say up to this point here is what you need to survive. Okay. If, well, then pointed sticks would be a bad example. Let's say it's let's just say it's apples. Okay. So you make a whole plant a few apple trees, and that's enough for you to live off of. So if you go beyond that, you don't need those apples. So what do you do with them? Well, you can trade them with someone else for something else. So if they're just doing apples, then like why would you trade apples unless they're a different breed? Or so it allows you to trade for something outside of what you specialize in your kind of toolbox of assets, of abilities. So if I let's you know what, we're gonna go straight into the more complicated version. Okay, so I'm going to erase this here. So I'm going to make ourselves an orange. This little orange here. And let's fill it in. And let's make ourselves an apple. So I'm going to demonstrate a very simple economy based off apples and oranges. We'll say there's nothing else being traded. It's apples and oranges. So I'm going to freehand this apple. I'm probably going to butcher it, but yeah. Wait, that's not a... All right, let's fill that in. There, my beautiful apple. Let's give it a stem. Yeah, we're going fancy here. Yeah, there's my apple. Hoorah. All right, so they're comparable in size. So person A is making oranges. Person B is doing apples. So this guy has some excess oranges, and this guy has some excess apples. And so they trade them one for one. They're relatively similar in size. So let's say more and more people get into the area, and you have this town that starts to flourish, and you have more people growing apples and oranges. And let's say the orange people start optimizing their processes. They grow a better orange. Oops, wrong color. our oranges get a little bit bigger. And so, and they're trading with the apple growers. We're like, well, an apple really isn't now worth an orange. It's like we need to do an exchange, like 1.5 apples for one orange. Well, what about if I want an awkward amount? What about if I don't? What about if I'm fine on apples and oranges? I don't need either. I've got way more than enough to eat and to trade with. But I would like to be able to get them when I need them, but I don't want to just throw out all this excess I have. So we need something, especially if there's a bad harvest one year, like you might have rotten oranges, and then there's a shortage on oranges, and so they're even worth more, or vice versa on the apples. So then the value of that, due to the supply being low, and people want those apples, so now they have to trade more oranges for one apple. So how do you lubricate that whole awkward process as value fluctuates and people want to have something that maintains value and doesn't spoil? Well, that's where money comes in. Let's make ourselves a nice little bill here with a happy little put a little face in there. Whatever. My artist skills are okay. Let's say it's a $10 note, and currency really is just it's arbitrary. So it's you have a third party. So this is gonna, we'll call this the leaders of this society. The bankers, the government, whatever, they regulate this. So this doesn't really have an inherent value, but it's going to help with the trading of this. So this, its value is not in the value of, let's say this is made out of paper. The value is not in its paper. It is dependent on this, on the apples and the oranges. So let's bring in another factor here. Let's say we got a evil scowl here. All right, this is the boogeyman. He does a dance on you, a boogie dance. When he beats you up and he destroys your apples and oranges, or he steals your apples and oranges. So let's say that the leaders see that the boogeyman is more than just one. There's a bunch of them, and if you go out to harvest your apples and oranges, you might get beat up by the boogeyman. So there's a number of ways we could go about resolving this issue with the boogeyman. But let's say the leaders decide, you know what? Until we come up with a solution, no one go outside to get your oranges and your apples. No one go outside to trade the oranges and apples. What we'll do is we're going to give you this money to tide you over until the boogeyman goes away. That's going to be our solution for the boogeyman problem, is we're going to give you this until this goes away. But what happens when no one is out there growing the apples and the oranges? Well, you just have all these apples and oranges going to waste. Now, if if someone says, okay, someone's hungry and everyone's still in their home waiting for the boogeyman to go away, and that the leaders are giving you all this money, and you go, you know what, I'm hungry for an orange. So you go out to someone that you know has a few oranges that are still good, and you say, here, let's say it costs $10 for an orange before, just as an example. Okay, so you give him $10 for the orange, but he goes, no, 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 no. What is this of use to me? It's not $10 anymore, and I don't need your $10 because the leaders gave me $10. I don't need more. I don't need $20. Uh, so it's like, well, will you take? Will you take 20 then for it? It's like, well, I still don't need. Will you take 30? And then you might think, okay, maybe I'll take 30 because when the boogeyman finally goes away, maybe I can get a lot more with this money. So it's hope in that you're playing a game of chance and placing your bets. And so after a number of trades like this, now the established value of this orange is no longer 10, it is now 30. That is now the going rate for the orange. And then now people start complaining, well, we don't have enough money to buy ourselves enough apples and oranges. So the leaders go, okay, so we're going to increase the amount of money we give to you. So by let's say we're going to double it. So your allowance while we're waiting for the boogeyman to go away is now going to be, double what it was before. So then you have the same problem, and as the supply dries up because no one is getting new apples and oranges, or very few people are getting apples and oranges. Basically, the only ones that are making apples and oranges are those who are getting sick of waiting for the boogeyman to go away. So then there's now more supply of this, which is based on this existing, which is not existing. So now it's okay. Well, this becomes even more worthless, and so now the price of oranges go to, let's say, $50, $60, or and same with apples, $50, $60 per apple. Okay, well, boogeyman still isn't gone, so let's multiply it again. So now let's give you a $40 allowance. Okay, well now now it's same thing, and people aren't making more apples and oranges than they were before. So then, okay, doubled. And eventually it gets to a point where this becomes meaningless. There is nothing to buy with this. So this is what you've had happen in Venezuela is this insane inflation, as this becomes worth less and less. Now, inflation is part of any normal economy, as you add more and more people into the economy, more and more people trading, and then the fluctuating values, there's just this natural flow of this to devalue. But not to such an extreme where you have double or triple or quadruple inflation per year or even month. So when you have runaway inflation like that, the economy is kaput. And why? Because there's no production based off of. So again, back to that little chart is, if people aren't making at least this. Let's say this is what you need to survive. Whatever X is, you can call food or just the necessities of life. Let's say that's what you need to survive, and then excess is what allows you to trade. So let's say you can only make it to here. So do you just give up and die? Well, let's say your neighbor, let's say they have this. They've got more. So do you go ahead and invade your neighbor? You declare war on your neighbor to get their resources. If especially if they're not interested in trading with you, especially if you have nothing to trade. Because if all you have is this to trade, which is useless to them, if you don't have apples and oranges to trade that you did before, and now you say, I'll give you 1 billion of these. Well, this is nothing. This means nothing. This is just an arbitrary figure. This is merely to facilitate this, to make this whole process of trade easier. Without this is meaningless. So because we're still the boogeyman, COVID is still being used to drive fear and convince people to not keep the production, what human creativity actually makes. If you stop the human creative process and say just lay back and depend on the leaders of society to support you, well, are they taking up the mantle? Are they taking the responsibility for making more of this, or are they just printing more of this? Because if you stop making this, and they're not taking up the slack in making this, and they're just saying we're making more of this, then you get to below survival levels. That's when you have economies crash. That's when you have wars happen. So that's that's the exact situation we are, well, not heading into, we are in now, where we're getting to it's just that the markets haven't really accepted that reality yet. So that's what we're going to see over this coming year is, in fact, finally, New York real estate has hit that point, and that's starting to come. The reality is starting to sink in there. But across North America, like in some cases, it's in Canada, it's even worse, because we're just dishing out 2,000, like the it's not Surban, CRB is now just going to be passing out again $2,000 a month to people, for people not to work. It actively is encouraging people not to work. It's not as bad as the Surban that if you make more than 1,000, you can't claim it. But still, it's encouraging people not to do this and instead just wait on leadership to give them this, which if you can't buy this with this, then this becomes meaningless. It becomes useless. As for who's doing that and why, that's a topic for another day. So that's economy simplified, and yeah, there's a lot to talk about this Thursday for the update stream. A lot has happened in the past couple weeks, and we need to talk about it. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Catch you later.